Okay, so this is just a short video on how to use the specific heat capacity equation. We've got delta Q, which is energy transferred, which is going to be measured in joules, M, which is mass, so even if it's given to you in grams, you still have to convert it to kgs. Then we've got specific heat capacity, and then we've got the change in temperature. Of course, that could be measured in degrees Celsius for GCSE, but later on you'll probably see that measured in Kelvin. Okay. The specific heat capacity unit is joules per kg per degree Celsius. So we'll go from there. Like I was saying, that could also be written in this format. Okay, joules kg to the -1 degrees Celsius to the -1. So if we start from here, and I'd kind of like you to, I know people tend to struggle a little bit with algebra sometimes. I'll just move my face. So I'd like you to kind of adopt maybe a 3-step approach to doing algebra problems. Step 1 is circle the subject. Okay. Now what I mean by the subject is which one are you trying to move? Which one are you trying to isolate? Which one are you trying to solve for? Okay. We call that the subject. So say for example, I'm going to solve for C. Okay. Because when we get a new equation and we get a new constant, it's always a good idea to rearrange it and then see if we can figure out its units and things like that. Okay. So I'm going to rearrange for the specific heat capacity itself, C. First of all, step 2 is you look and identify the operations. What I mean by that is you look around. So if you put your eye where C is and look around it and see what's nearby it. Okay. I've got an M here and I've got a delta T over here. And you ask yourself, well, what are they doing to the C? Okay. Well, it's fairly straightforward. Hopefully it's obvious to everyone that both of these are actually multiplying the C. Okay. That's what I mean by look and identify the operations. Now what I do is I apply, okay, this is a mathematical acronym, BEDMAS. Sometimes you'll hear it called as BOMDAS or PEMDAS, depending on depending on how you learn mathematics. Basically stands for the order of operations. So B is brackets, E is exponents, or sometimes that's powers or roots. So if you've got x squared, okay. D stands for obviously division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. And sometimes you'll see slightly different variations of this. The most important thing is the brackets have to come first, then the exponents, or the squares, or powers, or whatever you want to call them. Sometimes they're called powers. And of course, roots come into this as well, so square roots come into it as well. Then you've got division and multiplication. Now, these two are interchangeable because multiplication and division are essentially the same operation, okay? Just like exponents and square roots are actually the same operation as well. And plus and minus, oddly enough, are also the same operation. So again, those two are interchangeable. What matters is when you're working out the value of a number in math, then you go from left to right, okay? You have to start from brackets, then you go exponents, then you do your division or multiplication, doesn't really make a difference, and then you do the addition and subtraction, and again, that doesn't really make a difference. When you're doing algebra, just so as you know, algebra goes the other way around, okay? So if you see addition or subtraction, you got to deal with that first, then you look for multiplication or division, you sort that out, and then you're going to look for squares or square roots, and then finally you would look for brackets, okay? Now for us, it's not going to be too hard, so you're not going to have too many of those different operations to deal with. In this problem, we've only got multiplication. So then you're on step 3 and you use the opposite operator, okay? So if multiplication is the operator, then division is the opposite of it. So I'm going to divide on this side by an M and a delta T, okay? The M will cancel with this one here, and the delta T will cancel with this one here. Now when I say they cancel, really what's happening mathematically is that M over M, any number divided by itself is 1, and I've got a delta T over a delta T, and again, any number divided by itself is 1. It doesn't go to 0, just so we're clear. But in order to maintain balance in the system, because an equation is a lot like a seesaw, okay, you have to maintain balance. So if I divide on this side by an m and a delta t, that means I also have to divide on this side by an m and a delta t. Otherwise, the whole thing will shift out of shape. So then, my specific heat capacity C will be delta Q, which is the change in energy, divided by the mass in kgs times the change in temperature, delta T. Now, if we quickly look at the units, then I'll let go of this video. So again, if we come back, delta Q has got units of joules above the line. Mass has got a unit of kg below the line. And change in temperature will have a unit, as far as we're concerned, of degrees Celsius. And lo and behold, this is exactly the unit that we had at the top here. Okay. Now, I'm just going to pause this and show you in the other way. Okay, for those of you who really struggle with algebra, you can put this into a triangle, and this is just taken straight from the PowerPoint that's on the previous slide. Okay, so you can see your energy is your specific heat capacity equation is pumped into a triangle here. So you've got your change in energy or your energy transferred on top, mass, change in temperature, and your specific heat capacity C is here. Okay, so how to use the triangle? Well, what the golden rule for the triangle is you cover what you want. So if you were after the mass, then you'd be left with the energy transferred divided by the change in temperature times the specific heat capacity. But if you were after the change in temperature, then it would be the energy transferred divided by the mass times the specific heat capacity. And lastly, if you were after the specific heat capacity, it would be the energy transferred divided by the mass times the change in temperature, which is exactly what we got on the previous part of the video. Okay, so I do want you guys to all practice this. It's something that we all have to get really good at, is rearranging equations, and it's just a little bit of math. It's just algebra. It won't hurt. Okay, best of luck with this, guys. Take care.